So hello everyone, this is the last part of our symposium today, and we are actually ahead of schedule. This is a new thing for Elevated Chicago. We are always late, but this time we're a little ahead. So we have a little bit more time to have a relaxing conversation instead of a rushed one as we planned. And we're only 45 minutes away from food, from drinks, from music, from fun, so stick around, and at 5 p.m. our reception will get started. I'm here with my colleague Jannice Newson, our coordinator and TikTok superstar that many of you have met already. And we're here with Bob Dean. He is the CEO of the Center for Neighborhood Technology. CNT is a leader of ETOD. As Nina mentioned before, many of us stand on the shoulders of giants, and CNT is one of those ETOD giants who was talking about ETOD before many of us haven't even gotten to school, right? So is a founding member, CNT, of Elevated Chicago, and we wanted to have this conversation, these reflections, with also a member of our steering committee, which is the newest member of our steering committee, is Melvin Thompson from the Endeleo Institute, who runs the community table at 95th Street of the Red Line. So welcome, everyone. We want to spend some time reflecting on 2022, but more importantly, we have a ton of great stuff happening in 2023 that we want to give you a sneak preview of.
So we want to start out by talking about favorite moments from this great year. I joined Elevated Chicago in March, and I was blown away by how much was happening. Every month, something was breaking ground or opening up, and I was just amazed by how much work has been done before and how it's all coming to fruition this year. But my favorite moment this year was the Spark Homecoming in New Orleans. Spark is coming to a close this year, longtime funder of Elevated Chicago. And we all gathered in New Orleans to celebrate the years of work and collaboration that happened under this challenge. And it was a wonderful time. We had great food, there was great music. We were even part of a second line, which is not something I expected, but we were in the street dancing and trumpets, and it was a great time.
Who else wants to share their special moment of 2022?
I can go next. I'm going to highlight the launch of our ETOD calculator, which happened in May. And I know that's not as exciting as some of the physical developments that Spark has led to, or the passing of new laws or things like that. But we are data people, so we get excited about the data and analytics pieces. And one of the things I'm most excited about with this new calculator is it was co-launched by CNT and our colleagues at the Metropolitan Planning Council. We previously had done parallel work on ETOD tools and ETOD scorecards, and decided to really bring this together into a single tool that really maximizes the benefit of both previous ones. And really, I think Elevated gets a lot of credit for causing that kind of relationship and that kind of improvement to happen. I think the new tool combines really the best features of the previous ones. We also are now starting to work with one or two community groups to really help them to dive deep into using it and seeing how it can help them communicate the benefits of ETOD. But I think the fact that Elevated Chicago kind of encouraged our organizations to work together very closely on launching something new and shared is something special that not all coalitions are able to do.
And I wanted to say, just to give credit to CNT and MPC, that yes, these calculators and these data things are sometimes not the most exciting tools, but many of us rush to CNT and MPC when we have a community meeting the next day or a meeting with the aldermen, and we need that data, and then it's not boring anymore, and we need you. We need you very much. So thank you for doing all the work behind the scenes for so many of us to look great then at meetings and in reports, etc. Melvin.
It's so much. That community ordinance was really critical. Getting a chance to, call aldermen and get them to get on board in that whole process. But I'd have to say the trip to Miami, the Revolution panel discussion, really gave us an opportunity to kind of highlight the tenets of people, places, and process, which is the foundation of Elevated. And it was so very well received. We dressed up like the red line, the green line, the orange line, the brown line. I wore red because I represent the 95th Street. So that was really cool. And
Are we gonna get invited again?
yeah, you missed that one, Roberto. I'm sorry. I went in your place. But it was so well received, and just like, you go so far away and you meet connections. We met some affordable housing people in Denver, Chicago transplants that are now in Denver, and heard about the work, and now we've got some connections there back in Chicago that I didn't have previously, so huge benefit.
Thank you for sharing that, and I love that we are starting to change those dynamics that several times came up during the previous panels where in Chicago, one thing that you learn when you move here is that sometimes people are a little too territorial here and nothing applies from other places because Chicago is this exceptional place and all of that stuff. But at the same time, I'm seeing that's changing, right? And we're meeting colleagues like Melvin, many others, Christian, our community tables. Leslie runs the one in Green Line South. Mike Thomas is around here from Garfield Park. And they are the contrary and the opposite. They rush towards these other communities. We like to call them sister communities, that they have the same gentrification issues in LA, in Denver, in Miami, in Memphis, and creating some of those opportunities to learn from each other and then transplant all that across cities is really, really exciting for us. My favorite moment this year was a low moment because there were several moments, I'm looking now at Marisa, there were several moments of the Connected Communities Ordinance journey where we thought it would never gonna happen. It was an up and down, and there was a lot of opposition, and to the credit of the city, the strategy was to start with a very strong proposal that we knew, all of us knew, that it was going to be, fought hard from some of the forces that have been going on in the city since its foundation. And so at that moment of low energy, and we're getting a lot of opposition, and let's just be clear where the opposition was coming from, which is majority white, wealthy communities in the north side of Chicago. You know who you are. There's only a few of them. In that moment, what we all did is just first have a moment to kind of reflect on, as somebody was saying before, I think it was Commissioner Navarra was mentioning, when you go to those neighborhoods and you see the signs saying, hate doesn't live here, and we welcome everybody, and it's not true, right? We welcome everybody that keeps our property values up and mixes well with who we are, right? So at that low moment, we started to call everybody. We call, of course, our close family, but we called also a ton of people we just met a couple times, and it was really emotional. More than a professional moment for many of us to make calls to organizations that immediately said, of course we'll show up, of course we'll call the alderman. Where do I have to sign up for this? Where do I join you? And I'm talking from Federation of Labor to Urban League to Rage in Englewood to Artists Collective to public health advocates, transit advocates. Big shout out to Active Transportation Alliance, I don't know, Amy's here, who donated their text service where they text you all that are members with calls to call your alderman, etc., all the transportation. And that was a moment for me, it was my favorite moment because yes, we had to take some losses in the negotiation, but we also built an amazing group now, much bigger than Elevated, much bigger than this room here, of folks who, when we go for that second time to win the battle, we're gonna win that one. So with that, we're gonna move from this year, because we talk a lot about 2022, into what's coming up next. And so the question is, what do we have to look forward to, and what is the most exciting 2023 project that we're working on? And I'll just start and say, continuing with this theme of connecting with other cities, one of the legacies of Spark is that we have found a couple funders that have said Spark is disbanding, but we want to continue supporting the work of the different cities. And so Atlanta, Transformation Alliance, LA with ACT LA, and Elevated Chicago have created a Connected Communities Impact Table that is a national table. We're going to continue working together to do 3 things with community-based organizations in our 3 cities. 1, influence policy at the federal level. 2 is to also influence the dollars that come into our communities. And 3, to do more of that exchange of lessons. So we expect to continue what we started with Spark, visit other cities, learn from the folks over there, come energized, and then join forces together to bring resources to the communities where we work. All of this in the sphere of ETOD and the field of transit justice. So super excited about this. You'll hear more when we launch officially in January of 2023. What are you all excited about in 2023?
Man, that's easy. We've got a $1 million 95th Street planning grant from the Federal Transit Authority that starts January 1st. Thanks to CTA sponsoring, DP. Oh yeah, give it up, please. CTA, which gets kind of thrown shade a lot. I gotta step up for my guys at CTA. They sponsored that. We pushed them. Elevated, Roberto. We pushed them. They sponsored it. DPD is overseeing it. We're working with Jasmine. It's going to be cool, but it's going to be community-led. Community-led. That was in the RFP. So we're really excited about this 2-mile planning grant from 95th and Halsted over east to 95th and Cottage Grove. So we're super excited. And I have to give you a little context because in 2016, we were fortunate. I was brand new. I knew we wanted to revitalize our 95th Street corridor, but I didn't have a roadmap. I didn't have a guiding light. And I think, Bob, you might have been at CMAP then. Yeah. And we secured this, to me, $1 million priorities planning grant, which gave me all the information about my community, all of this incredible information. And it was funny because in the recommendations and suggestions, it was like, now, Melvin, you've got all of this information. The next thing you need is a full land use comprehensive plan. Now we got it, Bob. We got that baby. So we're really excited. The community is excited. Business leaders, Chicago State students, you name it. Our parent church in Trinity United Church of Christ. We're all going to be at the table. We've got a community table now. And so we're really going to bring, all of those voices, young people. We've got high schools. Everybody's going to be at this table to see what's feasible, what's possible in terms of developing our 95th Street corridor. It may not look, some folks already said, hey, Melvin, we could have Great America. I'm like, maybe not. We kind of landlocked. We can't do that. But the community's input is going to be very powerful, and it's going to lead. And so that ownership is what we're really excited about, and I'm chomping at the bit to get started. I'm going to take a break first, though.
That is amazing. And for all of you who know Melvin, you know that this $1 million is going to be the first of a series of millions of dollars when he gets in the middle of it.
Say it, brother. Say it.
Bob.
Yeah, first, that's really great to hear how these things come full circle. And the previous place I worked, we gave some assistance to Melvin's organization, and I'm glad you value that at $1 million. It probably cost us about $20,000, but that it gave you $1 million worth of value, I think, speaks to the importance of working with community organizations to help them identify and then advance their priorities. Because it's So going to my answer to this question, I should back up first and say I was not at C&T when Elevated began. I was at CMAP at that point. So when Roberto speaks about the giants there at the beginning, he's not talking about me, he's talking about Jackie, who was here for a couple hours at the beginning but had to leave, which is why I'm up here now. The thing that I would point to as most exciting for 2023 is the Elevated Works concept that was mentioned in the video that many of you have heard of. And even though I was not at at CNT, when Elevated all started, I always knew it was funded by this big national effort through Spark as a startup grant to get these kind of things going in 6 cities. And startup grants are great, but then startup grants also end. And while there's a lot of interest from national funders, the level, I think, of investment from that we've had through Spark is not going to be there in the future from national philanthropy. And in some other cities, I'm not going to say all the other Spark cities, but at some other places, that's led to the coalition kind of saying, okay, good job, we're going to fade back a little bit, we're not going to do quite as much. And for me, one of the most important realizations of 2022 was that was not going to be the case here in Chicago. That, if anything, I mean, the opposite is happening. The size of Elevated is growing. Members of the coalition are being added. New funders are being brought to the table as well. And the concept of Elevated Works is to position Elevated to also be able to work with government in a different way, to be able to contract with government to provide services, technical assistance, et cetera. We are proud to be the kind of fiscal agent and sponsor of Elevated for this work, and we're trying this in a couple cases now. But the concept here is that the coalition that we brought together with Elevated brings tremendous value to government in accomplishing what they're trying to accomplish around equity and sustainability and all the other community-driven goals of Elevated. And government can and should pay for that. And that they should be paying the nonprofits and the community groups who have been here from the beginning. It shouldn't solely fall on philanthropy to advance the goals of ETOD. So the goal of Elevated Works is to create a structure that allows us to work with government in this new way, not to turn our back on philanthropic resources, which still is the basis for Elevated, but really create a new way for us to work with government to convince them and help them along the way to do the right things. So I'm really excited to see, and very much looking forward to see in 2023 the impact of Elevated actually increasing in terms of impact and the robustness and the value that Elevated brings, even with diminished resources from national funders.
Thank you. And I think that's the beauty of having a diverse coalition. I know with diverse coalitions, and we have a lot of different organizations at the table, there is a level of, conflict that comes and difficult conversations. But when you manage that and you have great partners at the table, what that translates also is having organizations that can take care of the things they are best at and help the full collective be the best at. So Elevated Chicago, as you know, our our fiscal home has been the Chicago Community Trust. I have to say they've been super exquisite in how they show up as just one vote to one member. They don't take over the room. They have equal power with the other 14 members. But we were getting all of these calls for help from cities, municipalities, public sector, and to respond to those calls, Community Foundation is just not equipped to do that, right? And that's when we thought, okay, who would be a great partner that already works with government, that has a great track record in technical assistance, and we are super proud to have CNT now serving as our second home for Elevated Works, and you'll hear more about this in the next year. Jannice.
As someone with a background in environmental science and conservation ecology, I am very excited about our project. It's now called Nature-Based Solutions for ETOD, kind of hard on the ears, but we're working on making it shorter and sexier very soon. But we are looking at nature near transit and what that can mean for wellness, what that can mean for an experience walking or riding or rolling in transit in your neighborhood. And we have kicked it off this year, and installation is going to be happening next year at a number of places in the city. One of our projects is with Palenque LSNA. We're going to be putting in a butterfly garden at the roof of their new offices. It's going to be beautiful. And we also have, make sure you check it out too. They've got a new roof deck and it is nice. We've got another project in Albany Park with North River Commission. Dahlia and Carson are over there, and they have been wonderful to work with. And we are going to be working with them on one of their parking lots because, unfortunately, Albany Park doesn't have community plazas. So they use parking lots to makeshift for community space. And we want to be able to bring some natural beautification to one of these areas that they commonly use for community events, namely one of their lot jams, which is a series of concerts that they have over the summer in parking lots. And our other project is with Melvin. Melvin's busy. He's doing a lot of things, and we're very glad to have him. But we are going to be doing some work at Trinity Church along the side where there's currently heavy flooding that occurs on their property, and we're going to be doing some beautification there, also with some art along that area, and to slow some of the flooding that's occurring into the lot on Trinity Church. And we have two smaller refresh projects that are also happening with Overton on the Green Line South with their rain garden, as well as at Farmworks with refreshing their rain garden as well. So speaking of our community partners, we love our community partners and we're nothing without them. So we want to shout some of the other projects that are going on in our eHubs. I want to shout out Kevin Sutton with Foundation for Home and Square. He did have to leave a little earlier today, but project we want to highlight there is the Home and Harrison Gateway. That is going to be an affordable commercial space on Holman Avenue, offering a space for local organizations and businesses in Lower Lawndale to be located in a beautiful building right on Holman Avenue. What are some of the projects happening with our partners that you all want to highlight?
Without question, Mike Thomas and the Eco Orchard that's happening right here. In the path of development, the fruits and nuts orchard is just gonna, Mike has been working on this forever, and to see this come to fruition is gonna be amazing. It's gonna be a calming, green, more walkable space. I'm just excited for him.
For those of you who pray, can you all say a little prayer for this to happen next year? Because this community has been pushing now for 6-7 years, and we really need you, DPD and the Metropolitan Water Reclamation District, I think I said that right, to work together and give the community this project that they've been working so hard at.
Yep. So I'll mention the Green Line Station, or Green Line South Station eHubs, not only because of the lovely people who live there, but also all of the work that's happened at Overton, and we've had some small role on that, green infrastructure-wise, but it is a tremendous improvement there. One thing I just want to mention, the name of the project Jannice just mentioned, the nature-based solutions for ETOD. So one of my staff tried to create an acronym for that and put that in our newsletter this last week. I was like, nope, that is not going to be a new acronym. We are going to find a new name for this before we acronymize it. So great work, but does need a flashier name.
Thankfully, we have great storytellers and communications folks at Elevated that can help us with these challenges. And then I would like to highlight community that's very dear to me. It's the community that welcomed me to Chicago 20 years ago, and the station that I came out of into Chicago and learned, all the things that the city has to offer, and that's Logan Square. And in Logan Square, you've seen a lot of buildings. You have seen the Lucy Gomez Parsons apartments happening, and that takes a lot of space and credit, and it should, because it's a beautiful building. But there's another project that Christian, who was here earlier today, and the community, the businesses in the community, the historic preservation folks, the residents have all come together around, and it's called La Placita. And look, what La Placita is a public space that is adjacent to the transit station, to the Logan Square, that is going to be co-designed between CDOT and the community to feel, to smell, to sound like a Latin American plaza. And you think about Chicago and our train stations, when you come out of them into a community that has an ethnic background, you don't often get that feel, right? And sometimes that feel was there, but it was extracted, and now it's no longer there. And if sometimes it's a bit shameful, right, to live in a city like Chicago and that we only have this one example, right, of a possible placita that is going to happen there. And the amount of work that Palenque and the community have put into designing this and making sure that it's driven by the community, by the vision there. I'm looking now at one of my favorite artists, Janelle, who knows very well what is it like to change systems in arts and design, working with the city. But it's coming together. CDOT worked very closely in the last set of renderings. I think we have one. We used to have one up there showing how the plaza is going to look. And I look forward to the groundbreaking in that community and that feel that is so special where the artists in the community are bringing their roots and bringing back the flavor and the spirit and the culture of Logan Square. So we have given you a lot to pick from, so I'm sure all of you are interested in joining not one or more of these projects. Please connect with us, join us. We always have seats at the table. When we don't have them, we drag them from some other place. This is the end of the last panel, and before we move into the final closing from our MCs, I wanted to thank this last panel, Bob, Melvin, Jannice. Also send a huge hug to Marley, who's still following us on Zoom and recovering from her illness. And also a big special hug. Where is Victor? Our intern. We lost it. Well, he was playing the guitar all day and practicing for that, and he plays beautiful music that we are very, very lucky to have in Elevator. So with that, Chandra Leslie, close us.